What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Moneyball Cards podcast. And today we have a special announcement. But before we make the special announcement, let's go ahead and show off the cards we got over the past week. Ryan, you can go ahead and show off your card.
So yeah, this last weekend I went to the Dallas card show. I picked up a ton of flips, a few PC items. This is one of the PC cards. I think this is really undervalued. It is a Nolan Arenado die cut rookie number to 60 from Prism. I mean, this card is just beautiful. Take a look at that right there. Now, this card cost me $120 for a rookie card number to 60 from Prism Baseball. A lot of people don't like the unlicensed stuff, but at the end of the day, it's still a baseball card. It's licensed by the MLB Players Association, and it's a Prism. And if you look at how much these basketball Prism die cuts go for, or golds or oranges or anything like that, like this is an orange die cut. If it's a basketball player, this card would be a 5-figure card for how good Arenado is. And I picked this up for $120. No brainer.
Well, I spent the exact amount of money that you spent on your card for my card. It's not a baseball player, but it is licensed. Uh, People like to hate on Panini and their Chronicles set. If you don't know, Chronicles is one of their last products that come out, and they basically take all the products they didn't publish and they put them all in just one product, and they do just a few athletes per product, so you get just a big mix. I think it's pretty cool, and I like it. So for this year, for the UFC, they did they did basically everything except Prism and Select, and they had National Treasures in their Chronicles product. So our UFC episode that we did, the MMA, I talked about a rookie heavyweight fighter who's fighting for the title in January. His name is Cyril Gahn, and he has a National Treasures out of 99 from Chronicles, and National Treasures is high end for Panini products, and I got it for $120. So uh, from what I've learned this past weekend, a fighter, if they really show out on fight night, their cards can take off. I'm talking about one fighter this past weekend. His name is Hamzat Shemaya. He came out. He's a rookie. He already had a lot of hype, but he came out and just completely dominated, and his cards took off after the fight. I'm talking hundreds of dollars. They were selling, some cards were selling for like $80, and they took off, and now they're selling for like 300 after one fight. So if this guy comes out, if Cyril Gahn comes out and shows out for the heavyweight title, people are going to be looking for National Treasures, and I got it for $120. So hopefully he wins, and if he does, I might go with the hype and just put it out there, but we'll see. We'll see. If he doesn't win, I still think he's got a bright future. And I know that was a long explanation for my weekend purchase, but
Hey, that's all right. We all
yeah,
like the explanations.
yeah, I had a lot to say with that one. So guys, before we get started, we have a big announcement. Last episode, we showed off the Market Movers data tool and that we were affiliates, but we would like to announce that we are now partners with the Sports Card Investor Market Movers team. And with that, we're going to be showing off the tool and what it can do and its capabilities. And it's going to be more of a partnership than us just saying, hey, go check out this link and click on it.
So we're going to be giving them some ideas that we come up with on the show to help them implement that into market movers. And if they end up liking it, you might be using one of those features in the tool in the future.
But for today's episode, we are going to use the Market Movers data tool, and we're going to look into 4 different sports and see how cards react before the play or during the playoffs and before the season, leading up to the season. There's hype there, and card prices go up there, and during the playoffs the card prices go up there. So I'm going to go ahead and show my screen, and we're going to take a look into the NBA. All right, so with the Market Movers data tool, I I took the comparison tool and I looked up Luka Doncic Prism Silver, Trey Young Prism Silver, Devin Booker, who made it to the finals this past playoffs, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, his rookie card, Anthony Davis and LeBron James for the Lakers, and a random rookie from the past few years who has some hype right now, Tyler Hero and his silver. These are all PSA 10, and the market movers had basically every grade, except for like PSA 1 for a lot of these cards. It was really easy to search these up and compare them. So this is the playoffs. I put in the dates for the playoffs, actually a little bit before the playoffs started, all the way to when the championship was won. And a lot of these, you can see the trend lines go down. But since these cards, the prices they differ a lot. I like to use this price changes by the percentages, so we can get a better look and kind of even the playing field. So here during the playoffs, we have this purple line. You can see it kind of took off and did well with price gains, and that's Trey Young. Trey Young had a huge NBA playoffs. He made it all the way to the conference finals, and I would expect his card prices to go up. We can see that leading up to the playoffs and him just being in the playoffs caused an increase, almost 50% increase for Trey Young cards going into the playoffs, which is just insane. We have this red line, someone who didn't do too well and just kind of went down consistently, and that was Anthony Davis. The Lakers, they lost in the very first round. Coming off the year in the bubble for the NBA playoffs, people just said that the Lakers won because they were in the bubble and there weren't fans. They didn't have a home, they didn't have to play true away games, and they won. So Davis got his ring, but people said it wasn't quite a true ring. So they lose in the first round, and you see his prices just tank. So the playoffs, we can't say that the playoffs, just the player being there is going to cause cards to go up. They need to do well, obviously, and I expect it to be a lot different than leading up to the season, where you don't have anyone playing. You're just going off speculation. So we're going to take a look at leading up to this current NBA season and how people looked at these exact same cards. When it's not based off performance, it's just based off perception. All right, so this is the time frame for the days leading up to the season and a little bit into the first week of the season. And this is the price changes. We saw with the playoffs, we had one player, Trey Young, go up 50% due to his great playoff run. And surprisingly, Giannis didn't really go up that much. I guess they already had their expectations high for Giannis, and him winning the championship kind of just solidified it for people. But Trey Young surprised people. The prices leading up to the season and through the first week seem to be just pretty much flat. So we'll take a look at the percentage changes again. And here we are. We have about 2 months here. So we have one card that seems to be taking off more than others, and that is the guy I was mentioning earlier, Tyler Hero. Looks like just leading up to the season and all the hype behind him, his card went up 145%, which is just, it's just crazy to me that people can, without games being played, people can still tell themselves like, hey, this guy's going to be great. But so we have one guy exploding. We have other cards kind of just, staying on this 0% line, going up and down. There's maybe one card, the Giannis card, going down a little bit. You see 15% there. So maybe Giannis cards went up a little bit in the offseason due to his first championship, and then leading up to the season, not as many people are buying. And there's one other card here. We have the LeBron Topps PSA 10 going up 75% for just one day, and then just going back down to earth. So the only guy going up a lot is Tyler Hero leading up to the season. All these other guys, I wouldn't say they're all completely established, but they don't have a lot of hype behind them like Tyler Hero, and Tyler Hero hasn't quite done, as much as all these other guys. So it's just people telling themselves this guy's going to be great, and it's just hype and speculation. So leading up to the season, you can look to sell your guys who haven't done much with hype leading up to the playoffs. If a player is in the playoffs, or you feel like he's going to do well, you could hold them in the playoffs and try to sell at a big spectacular moment that they have. For the NBA, we're going to look at the other sports, of course. But right now, I would say, leave your prospects for leading up to the season hype. So Ryan's going to show his screen, and we're going to take a look at what baseball did for the same scenarios.
Okay, so for spring training, I got 5 different players, a mixture of blue chip Hall of Fame players, and then some younger guys, and then some borderline Hall of Famers, just to see across the board. Also threw in one pitcher because there's differences in price points between a pitcher and a position player. And also I threw in a catcher, again, because catchers are typically worth less. So I kind of wanted to get the broad spectrum across 5 different players. So first, I have Albert Pujols, who's literally the best player in baseball for a while. Obviously, he's in decline right now. He's going to retire really soon. But looking across his career, I mean, he's a top 10 player no matter what. Next, you have Kershaw, which a lot of people think is going to end up being a top 10 pitcher of all time. So I wanted to have one of the greats of pitching, one of the greats of hitting. Next player is Joey Vado, who's going to be a borderline Hall of Famer. Really great career. Sabermetric people love him. But the old school people do not really like Joey Votto because he hasn't hit the thresholds like 3,000 hits or 500 home runs. Next, Juan Soto, who I think is the best young player in baseball right now, which is a modern card, 18. And then I also threw Miguel Cabrera, another kind of like established player at the tail end of his career. So I like looking at the price percentage change as well, just to see how things are going across the board. And obviously right here is at 0%. So leading up through spring training, you can see pretty much everyone increased in price. Obviously, the first few pretty much days or week of spring training, everything was going up, and then it looks like it starts going down again, just that initial hype of the season starting. But if you look even like, let's say 3/21, which is almost a month out, you can see pretty much all these guys right here were selling pretty much 15% more. The guy who spiked the most right here is Juan Soto at 81% spike, which is really crazy. And over here, you have Vado as well, who got a 28% spike. But it looks like it's pretty good for younger guys. I mean, you saw how much this is spiked all the way up to almost that's 80% just from preseason hype of Juan Soto. So hype definitely takes a matter of fact in baseball, at least for a prospect side of things. But even like the established players, they got an initial 10 to 15% boost. So if you want to sell your cards for a little bit more, just wait for spring training hype to come up, sell your players, and you get additional 10%. Now, I also want to take a look at the postseason. So I took a look at a bunch of different players that played in the postseason. So I put in Aaron Judge, I put in Buster Posey, Kershaw, Freddie Freeman, and Rafael Devers. And obviously this looks messy right now, but a lot of these players ended up getting removed from the playoffs when their teams lost. So obviously Judge is out, Posey's out, now Kershaw's out and all that. But I want to look at Freddie Freeman. So Freddie Freeman initially was down, which is interesting enough, about 10%, but he's gone on a run recently, and that's now up to a 45% increase in value just from pretty much a month of predicting with that. But I was kind of curious also some of these other players, how are they performing before their teams got eliminated? So I want to take a look at Kershaw. Now, there wasn't a lot of sales of the Kershaw 10 recently, so can't really use that one. Take a look at Buster Posey. Now, Posey's Giants were doing great. They got eliminated. They won well over 100 games this year, I believe. Well, and the playoff hype, you can see a 15% increase before they end up getting removed. We have Aaron Judge. Yankees always love him. But his card prices have gone down quite a bit since they lost in the playoffs. And then you also have Rafael Devers, who is doing extremely well, but Red Sox ended up losing, and it looks like his card crashed as well after that. So people are pretty much betting on these players to win the World Series, and you can see that with the spike of the prices with that. And then in the offseason, when spring training starts again, the cards go back up about 10 or 15% right before the preseason hype.
Okay, so for the NFL, I use all quarterbacks because quarterbacks are mainly what people go to when they're investing. You can speculate with all the other positions, but for right now, we want to be sure. So we're looking at quarterbacks. I got Kyler Murray here, his Prism PSA 10. These are all going to be PSA 10s. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and my guy, Baker Mayfield, even though he's not doing too great this year. All right, so I'm going to go straight to the percentage changes because I have Tom Brady's rookie card in here. And with the price changes, it just basically puts everything down below it because he's Tom Brady. So we're going to go with the percentage changes. And the first thing I see is this gold card. Right off the bat, Justin Herbert. All right, so Justin Herbert's card went up 70%, and he wasn't even in the playoffs last year, but he did take a bad team to a better record. And you look at the Chargers now, they're definitely looking like a playoff team, and he's going to have his first run in the playoffs. So that's just strictly hype that caused that increase. And then we have this orange line here, and of course, that's Tom Brady making his Super Bowl run for number 7 with the Buccaneers up 231%. You could easily predict that before we looked at it. Okay, so for the NFL, leading up to this season, I feel like there's not the same amount of hype that spring training would get because you don't really have that type of you have preseason games, but no one really cares about them. And NBA has built up because you have the very long summer league and you have the draft during the off season. The NFL has the draft in April, I believe. And then there's just kind of nothing. And then you kind of have leading up to the season, you're doing your fantasy drafts. Maybe that's enough hype, but taking a look at the leading up to the season charts for the same cards, you have a lot of stuff dropping, and there's just one card here going up, and that is Lamar Jackson. Looks like he jumps up for the 1 month leading up to the season. He jumps up 41%, and Lamar Jackson is a guy who he does really well during the season, has a ton of hype, makes it to the playoffs, and then doesn't quite do what he was doing during the regular season. So he is a guy that I could see people, selling for a lot higher, even when he's not playing. But you have everyone else just kind of going down. We have this orange line of Tom Brady's card going up 30%. That card's just going to go up indefinitely. If you have it, just hang on to it forever and then put it in a safe and never sell it. It's just going to keep going up. Pretty much everything leading up to the NFL season just kind of dropped off except for Lamar and Tom Brady, which is actually surprising to me. I thought there would be enough hype to get these quarterbacks up in price, but apparently not. So far we have MLB leading up to the season does very well for cards, and NBA, but looks like the NFL not so much leading up to the season. I guess people really want to see the guys back on the field, and I'm going to add a month to this and see what the cards did after the season started. There we go. Yeah, so we have the season start, and it looks like a lot more cards are going up in value, especially that Tom Brady card that's going to go up forever. One person dropping in value, Justin Herbert, once the season started, which people must have been paying way over his expectations because he's been playing well. So that's surprising. And then Josh Allen, same thing. I mean, he's not been playing as well as he did last year, but not enough to cause his value to go down. But mostly everyone else who I guess didn't have these super high expectations went up in value once the season started. So with the NFL, I would advise don't sell leading up to the season, but once the guys hit the field and they start playing, you can look to put your cards on the market.
Okay, so here is hockey. Now, I want to say one thing with the hockey preseason. It's a really, really short preseason in comparison to spring training and other sports as well. So the hockey preseason was only 2 weeks getting ready for the season. Now, there is a little bit of hype, but with the players that I looked up, there wasn't actually much sales during that time period in both PSA 10s or PSA 9s. So I kind of found that interesting with hockey. And even with those few limited sales, the sales were kind of flat. It wasn't a big spike like I saw with baseball. So it kind of goes against the data with everything else. But with that being said, I wanted to take a look at the playoffs still because the playoffs in hockey are almost like 2 months. It's crazy. It's like it's season in itself. So it goes from May all the way to July. And what I found interesting is kind of like we were talking about in baseball, how cards go up throughout the playoffs, but once a team loses, they're down. And you can kind of see right here, Andrei Vasilevsky with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Lightning ended up winning the playoffs, and you can see his card ended up going up over 120% in that playoff run. But you can see every other team that ended up losing, like over here, you see a negative 42% in Austin Matthews card value, which is crazy. You have even McDavid losing 15% over there. The only one that was average was Nathan McKinnon. So, and even early on in the playoffs, everyone started seeing their spikes as they're winning. Once they lost, it started tumbling down. So the hype from playoffs is alive as well in hockey. If you want to predict on some players that are going to do well for the NHL playoffs, maybe buy a few of their cards, especially if they're players that you don't see losing a ton of value. I was really surprised with that 42% loss with Matthews because he's one of the better players in hockey. But you can see some other established players like McDavid only went down 10% and Crosby went down 15%. So it's better than losing at the casino if you're going to bet on a sports game. I mean, if your team is out, you're going to lose 100% of your money. If you bet on a sports card, you might only be out 10 or 15%. And I mean, at least with other sports, we saw how they ended up going back up before the season. Hockey, I just didn't see that because there was a lot of sales. Now, in the future, maybe another episode, I'll take a look at what happens during the season as a player performs. Maybe that'll catch back up that 15% or even slightly before the preseason starts for hockey. Let's say 2 or 3 weeks out before then, when they announce like preseason dates, maybe there's a little bit of a spike. And that could be a whole nother episode, a whole other study. But for this one right here, it looks like the playoffs makes an impact on the prices, but the 2-week preseason window does not.
So for hockey, and I see goalies like catchers or like offensive linemen. Would you say you could invest in goalies? Because I see some goalies there. So
yeah, so there's only one goalie. That's Vasilevsky. He's the best in the game right now. But traditionally, goalies do hold value in hockey. Sure, it might not be like the value of some of these other star players out there, and that could be a whole nother research topic. Like I was saying, I obviously did the one episode where we compared pitchers to batters. It'd be kind of interesting to compare goalies to defensive players to offensive players in hockey. So yeah, in baseball, pitchers don't get the respect like position players do, but in hockey, I mean, people really, really like some of the different goalies. I mean, you have players like Patrick Waugh and Dryden who are still legends in the game, and people still talk to them, and their card prices reflect that. And then you also see like Andrei Vasilevsky. His stuff is still cheap, in my opinion, for how good of a goalie he is on a team that won back-to-back Stanley Cup champions and championships. And he also kind of got screwed out in the awards, but that's a whole nother topic for another day.
So next week's episode is going to be a very special episode. Ryan is coming out to Charlotte, North Carolina for his breakout cards. and he's going to be here, and we're going to film some stuff together. And I don't know what it entails, or maybe we'll be drunk at a club. I don't know, but
I don't drink, so
I'm kidding. I don't drink. I don't drink either. We're not going to be drunk at a club, but it's going to be different. So keep an eye out for that one.
You guys want to check out Market Movers? Make sure to use code Moneyball. Save yourself 20% off the first year or month of your subscription. It helps fund the channel and helps us make episodes every single week for you guys. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll catch you next week.